You stand on the precipice of a liberation so profound, it will redefine your very existence. Not in a decade, not in a year, but commencing now in this sacred breath, you can begin to touch an unshakable, boundless peace and a clarity that cuts through the deepest illusions of suffering. This is not a promise of a life devoid of challenges, but of an inner sanctuary impervious to them. It will not come through frantic acquisition, intellectual prowess, or the manipulation of external circumstances. It will dawn as you awaken to a truth more intimate and more powerful than any passing state. You are not the turbulent stream of your thoughts, emotions, or sensations. You are the silent, spacious awareness in which they arise and pass. The moment this recognition shifts from a mere concept to a directly felt experience, the architecture of your suffering begins to dissolve. The relentless inner critic, the haunting shadows of past regrets, the anxieties that project 1,000 imagined dooms onto the future, these are not intrinsic to your being. They are mental-emotional weather patterns, energetic formations that have claimed your identity by default, by your innocent yet profound misidentification with them. The deep ache of separation, the gnawing sense of incompleteness, the relentless pursuit of something more, these are symptoms of having forgotten the vastness you already are. The freedom you yearn for, the authentic joy that feels so distant, the profound sense of belonging you seek in people and places, these are not destinations to be reached. They are the very fabric of your essential nature, currently obscured by the fog of incessant mental commentary and the addiction to the drama of the me story. And in this unfolding present, if you truly dare to gently disengage your fierce grip on the narratives of the mind, to cease fueling the fires of conditioned reactions, and to courageously rest in the luminous stillness of pure, unqualified being, you will witness not only your inner world transform, but your experience of the outer world will recalibrate in astonishing ways. It shifts because the perceiver has shifted from a state of contracted fear to expanded awareness. Do not burden yourself with the question of how this profound peace will sustain itself through life as inevitable storms. To demand a roadmap from the conditioned mind is to reinforce its illusion of control, to admit you are still looking to the known to define the unknown. The how is the inherent wisdom of the universe, the natural equilibrium of consciousness itself, which unfolds with effortless grace once the obstructions of the egoic mind are lovingly seen and allowed to soften. Your primary task, your most sacred duty, is not to orchestrate the unfolding, but to abide consistently in the silent, unwavering witness, the timeless aspect of your consciousness that was present before your first thought and will remain after your last. This witness is the source, not the seeker. Feel right now the subtle yet ever-present stillness that underlies the surface noise of your mind. Can you sense it? It is not an absence of sound, but a presence of quietude. Recognize this quiet observer, this core of your being, which has accompanied you through every fleeting joy, every piercing sorrow, every celebrated triumph, every humbling defeat, without ever being fundamentally changed or diminished by any of it. This observer does not condemn, does not crave, does not resist the flow of what is. It simply is, a boundless open space of allowing. This is your true self. This path is not about waging war against your thoughts or attempting to violently suppress your emotions. Such strategies are born of the same conflict they seek to resolve. They are the ego fighting itself, a battle doomed to perpetuate struggle. The invitation, rather, is to cultivate a radical shift in perspective, to realize that thoughts and emotions are transient energies, visitors passing through the sanctuary of your awareness. Let them arise, let them linger if they must, let them depart. Observe them with a kind, dispassionate curiosity, as you might watch clouds drift across an infinite sky, knowing you are the sky, not the fleeting clouds. Imagine a vast, deep ocean. The surface may be churned by winds and waves. These are your thoughts, your emotions, your worldly dramas. But the depths of the ocean remain profoundly still, untouched by the surface agitation. You have been living as if you are only the turbulent waves, forgetting the immense, silent depth that is your true nature. The practice is to remember and reside in that depth, even as the surface continues its dance. The sage by the raging river does not become the river. He does not leap in to wrestle its currents. He remains seated in his inherent stability on the bank, allowing the river of experience to flow by, fully perceived but not identified with. He knows he is the stillness that perceives the motion. You are that sage, that ocean depth. The capacity to remain centered, to abide in this inner sanctum, is not something you need to build from scratch. It is a birthright to be reclaimed and remembered. If your inner dialogue screams, "I want peace. I need peace," you are, in that moment, inadvertently affirming its absence, confessing your continued identification with the turmoil. The language of the separate self perpetuates separation. Instead, gently pivot your inner stance to the knowing. I am the peace that is aware of this present chaos. Even if the mind retaliates with a barrage of doubts, even if the body is tight with anxiety, even if your well-trained logic presents a seemingly irrefutable case for distress, you must tenderly, yet with unwavering commitment, return your allegiance to the seat of the silent observer. This is the master practice. For the deeper intelligence that animates your being, the silent knower, the indwelling spirit, is never truly disturbed. It is the unshakable foundation of your existence, the wellspring of all authentic solutions, all genuine creativity, all profound healing and insight. It communicates not through the clamor of anxious thought, but in the subtle intuitions, the quiet nudges, the profound sense of rightness that can only be discerned in the spaces of inner stillness, in the gaps between your thoughts. And from this very hour, if you will consciously, diligently, and patiently practice this art of disidentification, this gentle unhooking from the mind's narratives, you will begin to harvest its undeniable fruits. Decisions that once seemed agonizingly complex will clarify, not through exhaustive analysis, but through a quiet, intuitive knowing. Your habitual knee-jerk reactions to triggers will soften, creating space for more conscious responses. A pervasive sense of underlying calm, like a gentle hum beneath the world's noise, will begin to permeate your days, your interactions, your very being. This is not wishful thinking. It is the natural consequence of aligning with reality. Do not initially seek dramatic external validation for this inner shift. The outer world, with its circumstances and the behavior of others, is largely an echo, a lagging reflection of past identifications and collective conditionings. These are the residual shadows of the old way of being. The emerging you, the serenely aware presence, is not defined or diminished by these echoes. The new you is the silence from which all authentic, harmonious creation springs forth. You are learning to operate from cause, not from effect. You must begin to walk, speak, and act as though you are already this embodiment of peace, even when the inner or outer storm rages. Engage with the world, not by retreating from it, but from this rediscovered place of inner spaciousness and stability. Witness the anxieties and struggles of others from this compassionate vantage point, not with superiority or judgment, but with the quiet understanding that they, too, are ensnared in the captivating drama of the mind, identified with their own fleeting clouds. Your centered presence can then become a silent permission for them to find their own. I am not speaking in mere poetic metaphors, beautiful though they may be. I am pointing towards a direct, verifiable, experiential transformation in your perception and being. Everything you experience is inevitably filtered through the lens of your current level of identification. If you identify predominantly with the anxious, problem-solving, storytelling mind, your world will inevitably appear as a landscape fraught with problems to be solved, threats to be neutralized, and deficiencies to be rectified. Identify, however, with the silent, spacious observer, and that very same world begins to reveal its deeper harmonies, its inherent intelligence, its opportunities for growth and connection. The problems may still arise, but your relationship to them is revolutionized. If the conditioned voice within protests, "But my thoughts are too powerful, my emotional pain is too overwhelming, I've tried and failed," recognize this as the ego's desperate defense of its reign, its familiar territory of suffering. Acknowledge the intensity of the thought, honor the depth of the pain, but then, with the utmost gentleness, shift your focal point to the awareness that is cognizant of that thought, the awareness that is holding that pain. Who or what is this awareness? Dwell there. Inquire into its nature. It has no form, no agenda, no fear. It is simply present. This is your anchor. Consider a soul long tormented by a deep-seated sense of unworthiness. This person heard these truths and began, with tentative steps, to practice observing the recurring thoughts of, "I'm not good enough," without automatically believing them or collapsing into their emotional wake. When the familiar wave of inadequacy washed over them, instead of being swept away, they would internally whisper, "Ah, the old story of unworthiness is playing. I am here, aware of this story, aware of this feeling." They did this not to eradicate the feeling, but to decouple their identity from it. It was an act of compassionate detachment. Slowly, arduously at times, the immense gravitational pull of that core belief began to lessen. The spaces of relief, of simple being, grew longer and more frequent. They didn't destroy the unworthiness. They simply ceased to exclusively inhabit its constricting dimension. And from that emergent space, new insights, kinder self-perceptions, and more courageous actions began to blossom, not forced, but allowed. The fundamental law of consciousness is not punitive or preferential. It does not care if the content of your awareness is labeled positive or negative by societal norms or personal preference. It simply, unfailingly, reflects and reinforces the level and nature of your identification. You are the ultimate arbiter, the power that breathes life and perceived reality into your thoughts and emotions by implicitly or explicitly agreeing, "This is me. This is true." If you will dare to shift your primary allegiance to believe with growing conviction that you are the timeless, unchanging awareness, beneath the relentless stream of phenomenal experience, that peace is not a distant goal, but your inherent default state, then you will inevitably witness your inner landscape stabilize. And as the inner stabilizes, the outer world, your experience of it, will increasingly mirror this newfound harmony. It cannot be otherwise, for the world you experience is a profound and intricate mirror, reflecting not just your fleeting thoughts or imagined futures, but reflecting, most fundamentally, who you deeply believe and feel yourself to be at the core of your being. So be, with increasing consistency, the silent, spacious, unconditionally accepting awareness that you truly are. The peace you relentlessly seek will not then dramatically arrive from some external source. Rather, you will come to the startling and liberating realization that it was never truly absent, only momentarily, though perhaps for decades, obscured by the clouds of misidentification. This is not merely a technique of positive affirmation, though conscious inner dialogue can be a supportive tool on the journey. This is a call to a fundamental revolution in self-perception, a shift from egocentric doing to soul-centric being. Enter fully the state of the impartial observer. How does one observe? With quietude, without judgment of the content, with a gentle, open, allowing curiosity. Let everything be as it is, and notice who you are in the midst of it all. That feeling of detached, yet intimately connected, presence is the golden key. All authentic and lasting transformation begins with this courageous act of disidentification. The conscious recognition of I am as utterly distinct from I am this thought. This feeling, this body, this story is the supreme creative act of liberation. It is cultivated not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, often unnoticed moments of your day, while waiting, while walking, while listening. Every conscious breath can be an invitation home. You do not need to broadcast this inner work. You do not need to seek external validation or convince anyone else of its truth. Your primary and most vital task is to gently, persistently convince the deeply ingrained, habitual, conditioned mind that it is not the ultimate master of your inner household, but rather a potentially skillful, yet often overly agitated and fear-driven servant. The true master, the rightful sovereign, is the silent, knowing awareness. Call it the Christ consciousness within, the Buddha nature, the Atman, the Oversoul, the Presence. The names are but fingers pointing to the same moon. The reality is one, and it is your essence. To truly know peace, beginning this very hour, you must courageously observe from your deepest center. Do not exhaust yourself thinking about achieving peace. Instead, learn to think, speak, and act from the awareness that is already inherently peaceful. Do not strive relentlessly to attain stillness. Recognize, honor, and inhabit the stillness that is the very foundation of your perceptual field. Hear the unavoidable cacophony of the world, perceive its myriad forms, but simultaneously feel and anchor in the profound silence from which you are hearing and perceiving. Use all your inner faculties, all your subtle senses, to ground yourself in this awareness. Let your observation of thoughts, emotions, and sensations be vivid, detailed, but crucially impersonal. For awareness, once recognized, cherished, and consistently abided in, is the direct pathway to liberation from the tyranny of suffering. You do not observe to numb yourself or escape the richness of life. You observe to engage with life fully, with an open heart and a clear mind, without being perpetually fractured or overwhelmed by its inevitable ebb and flow. Each moment you awaken from the hypnotic trance of identification, gently close your mental eyes to the seductive drama of the mind's projections and feel into the calm, the isness that is always already here. Each time the powerful currents of old conditioning threaten to pull you back into the whirlpool of anxious thoughts and reactive emotions, tenderly, patiently bring yourself back. Back to the simplicity of your breath. Back to the undeniable sensation of being alive in this moment. Back to noticing the sounds around you without the immediate need to label or judge them. Anchor yourself steadfastly in the sanctuary of the present moment, for it is here. In this timeless now, stripped bare of the ghosts of past regrets and the phantoms of future anxieties, that lies the ever-open gateway to the profound, imperturbable peace of the observer. You are not forcing or manufacturing peace. You are simply courageously allowing the peace that you inherently are to emerge, to radiate from beneath the accumulated debris of years, perhaps lifetimes, of mental conditioning and misidentification. The master key is this gentle, patient, unwavering, and persistent returning to the seat of awareness. Without this core practice, all other spiritual techniques, affirmations, or rituals remain superficial, unable to penetrate the deepest layers of egoic defense. But with it, even the most mundane moment, washing dishes, waiting in line, listening to another, can become a profound portal to presence, a sacred meditation. Do not observe mechanically, as a mental exercise. Feel your way into the boundless spaciousness of your true being. Dwell in it. Savor its subtle yet profound qualities. Let it gradually expand and permeate your entire perceptual field. Allow it to become more real, more substantial, more you than the ever-changing, often contradictory stories your mind relentlessly weaves. For those stories are ephemeral, like writing on water, but the awareness that perceives them is as eternal and unchanging as the sky. In this very hour, in these unfolding moments, if you will commit to disidentifying from the mind's incessant content and courageously choose to rest as the awareness itself, peace will cease to be a distant, yearned-for destination. It will reveal itself as your most intimate starting point, your natural habitat. The method is not shrouded in esoteric complexity. It is breathtakingly, even shockingly, simple. The primary challenge, lies not in the intellectual understanding of the principle, but in the consistent remembering, the diligent applying, the moment-to-moment choosing, the courageous being of it. Hold to this truth as your most precious compass. Refuse with gentle firmness to be wholly consumed, day after day, by the fleeting, often deceptive, shows of the mind. You know, at a level deeper than thought, the truth of your being. You are the silent, serene, aware presence. So I ask you now, with all the earnestness of my being, will you dare to embody this truth? Will you consciously choose to cast off the heavy, ill-fitting garment of anxious self-identification and finally, fully, put on the luminous mantle of the serene, compassionate observer? Will you persist with kindness towards yourself, even when the mind rages with its old programs, even when emotions churn like a stormy sea, knowing that these too are passing phenomena within your vast awareness? If your answer is a heartfelt yes, then this very hour, this very day, your experience of life will begin its most profound and liberating transformation. You are not waiting for peace to miraculously descend upon you from some outside agency. Peace, your true nature, is patiently waiting for your full recognition, for your conscious return home to the heart of your own being. Become now, in this moment, the awareness that is already, and always has been, inherently free. Learn to think as it thinks. Learn to feel as it feels. Learn to live as it lives. Undertake this sacred inner work gently, without harsh self-judgment. Practice it persistently, for it is a cultivation, like tending a precious garden. Engage it with a quiet, unwavering conviction, born not of dogma, but of your own deepening inner experience. The universe, the totality of life, responds not primarily to your desperate pleas or your anxious strivings, but to the fundamental state of your consciousness, your deepest resonance of being. Let the world outside continue its often frantic, noisy dance. You, meanwhile, can increasingly find and inhabit your unshakable stillness within. Observe all that arises, within and without, boldly and with clarity. Witness it all lovingly, with the compassion that arises from understanding our shared human condition. And persist in this remembrance until the unseen, yet ever-present peace becomes the undeniable lived reality of your daily experience. For it must. It is the law of your own being. It must. You are, and always have been, that which you most deeply seek. You have simply, innocently forgotten. Remember now. Remember that you are the awareness, and in that pure, unadorned remembrance, peace is not just fleetingly found, but profoundly, unshakably unveiled as your eternal, inherent nature. Let this hour, this day, be the commencement of that great remembering. The silence of your true self is calling you home. Listen deeply. Respond fully.